You're listening to PPSIMMONS Radio, the theater of the mind. My name is Mike Shoesmith. As many of you know, PPSIMMONS often praises the ability of capitalism to lift any society out of a financial doldrum, because capitalism works. It works wherever it is tried, every time it is tried. Capitalism often gets a bum rap for being responsible for greed and corruption, etc. But in fact, greed is a nasty human trait which can manifest in any atmosphere, in any form, whether it's political or economic. Greed is greed. Greed is separate from capitalism. Greed is something that can manifest within the capitalist system, but that is a truth that happens to be no matter what system we're talking about. Even in the political realm, capitalism is not the only realm in which greed and corruption exists. Capitalism works there. It produces economic prosperity, and a rising tide lifts all ships. When capitalism is allowed to prevail as the dominant financial system, then everyone benefits. As societies move towards socialist templates, people become lazy because the reward for greatness becomes reduced to a low common denominator, because people are not permitted to keep the wealth that they've earned. They have to share with the non-producers, those who are allowed to sit around and do nothing. It's an easy thing to be a do-nothing. Once people are allowed to be that kind of person, a do-nothing, it sets in. It can happen to anyone. People are allowed to be lazy, they'll be lazy, unless they're shown a greater example, unless they're given the opportunity to rise up out of the swamp of laziness. And the only way that is achieved is to show the benefits. Benefits are many. People who are proponents of socialism, they often use the greed aspect, which often manifests in prosperous societies. They say, look, the capitalist system is a greedy system. People that have don't want to share with those that don't have. And yet, people that have should be heralded as examples to those who don't have. Look what can happen for you if you simply get out there and do what's right. Put in the hard work, do the labor, do the heavy lifting, the heavy thinking. Put down the Xbox controller, put down the bucket of fried chicken. Put the effort into your own personal franchise. And let's face it, we are all individual franchises. If everyone was self-employed, the world would be a much better place. Because otherwise you end up with those who think that they are entitled to free this and free that, when nothing really is free. At the end of the day, somebody had to pay for that thing. Somebody had to pay for that health care. You know, as America moves toward a socialized health system, the great American system will collapse because there won't be anyone around to pay for it. Canada has a rationed healthcare system. Canadians flock to the United States, or have flocked to the United States for healthcare, because the United States has the best healthcare system in the world, or has had the best healthcare system in the world. But now that it's being forced on people, in other words, those who have are being forced to share with those who don't have. The producers are being forced to give up their reward for the non-producers, the United States healthcare system will fall and be sacrificed in order to subsidize those who don't have, those who aren't willing to put in the effort. And that's the problem there with capitalism. It simply is rewarding people for hard work and effort and ingenuity and invention. Capitalism is defined as this. This is capitalism, folks. You won't find greed in capitalism. Greed exists as a separate entity. And it's like a cancer that can, like an infection that can infect anyone, any system. Political, economic, doesn't matter. It doesn't discriminate. But capitalism is this. This is the definition of capitalism. Capitalism is invention, effort, and reward. That is capitalism. It is nothing more than that. It is nothing less than that. You take one of those legs out from under the three-legged stool of capitalism, then it collapses like any three-legged stool. If you take the invention out, you put effort toward nothing. You need the invention first. The invention can be a thing. It can be your own personal contribution to society. That can be an invention. The invention can be an activity of the mind that people benefit from. And then there's the effort. You can have an invention, put no effort toward it, and it goes nowhere. And finally, you need the reward. If you have an invention, you put all kinds of effort into it, and other people reap the reward. What is the point? What is the point? Is the point knowing that you've done good for society? That it's not fair if other people are reaping the reward and you're not. This is capitalism, folks. Greed is not a part of it. So I've said all that to say, I've spent 8 minutes saying that to say this. In the trucking community, in the trucking world in North America, Canada, the United States, when the price of fuel went through the roof several years ago, the trucking industry implemented what they call a fuel surcharge. The trucking did it. They did it in the flight. The airline companies they implemented fuel surcharges and so on and so on. Trucking companies were no different, and the people who run these trucking companies, they began to take money from the shippers and receivers for this fuel surcharge. And the way the trucking community works is quite often there will be many self-employed individuals who own their own rig, and this rig, anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000. And these guys, they would buy their truck and they would lease their truck on to a larger trucking company. And we'll use an example of a trucking company because I am a small business owner. I own a small trucking company, but I was leased on to a larger trucking company. And in my personal example was Quality Carriers. I was with Quality Carriers out of Tampa, Florida for 12 years. And I was with them when the price of fuel skyrocketed, not literally overnight, but almost literally. And the way Quality Carriers did it, they specialize in hazardous chemicals in tankers. And like I said, I was there for 12 years. And the way they did it was they collected the revenue from the shippers and receivers, and they paid their lease operators, their owner operators, a percentage. And they would pay us 100% of the fuel surcharge because it was us, the people who own the trucks, who were buying the fuel. And the fuel surcharge was designed to be paid out to those buying the fuel. And Quality Carriers out of Tampa, Florida was being fair about it. They were paying us 100% of the fuel surcharge that they collected. This was fair. After a few years of this, we all received notices that Quality Carriers would no longer be paying us the fuel surcharge that they get. They were going to take that from us and pay us an amount that was agreed upon by many of the trucking companies in North America. And it was like a standardized national rate that they were paying. And so they stopped paying us the fuel surcharge that was rightfully ours. And they started paying us, dribbling a little bit out at a time. It became so much per mile instead of a percentage of the line haul rate, because other companies were doing it that way. So they decided that they were going to do it that way. So what happened was my revenue dropped by 30% the first year. So Quality Carriers in Tampa, Florida, their revenue was going up at the same time because they weren't giving the money to me. They were keeping it. Now, I was one of approximately 3,000 owner-operators. And I figure over the course of time, when they started doing this, they have stolen $100,000 from me. This is Quality Carriers out of Tampa, Florida. Now, this is a fraud on a monumental scale. This is possibly the largest financial fraud going on in the United States and Canada today is in the trucking industry. And these trucking companies, Quality Carriers is just one of many who are doing this, collecting a fuel surcharge from their customers, keeping it, and only paying a small percentage of that to the people who are actually buying the fuel. So they are profiting off of the fuel surcharge paid by the customers. Now, PP Simmons rejoices in the truth more than we rejoice in anything else. We rejoice in the truth. This is the truth. Capitalism is taking a bad rap for greed. This is greed in the trucking community that I am personally familiar with. This has happened to me. This is not slander. This has happened to me. And I have confronted them about it. They refuse to acknowledge me in this. They have essentially said to me, look, there's nothing you can do about it, so we're not going to pay you. So I have since left Quality Carriers. And since they have refused to deal with me on this, I am coming to the public. My name is Mike Shoesmith, and I'm speaking out about it on behalf of myself and the truckers around North America. It has to stop. It's not welcome in the capitalist society. Greed is not welcome. And you are stealing from me, you are stealing from hardworking truckers around North America. And it's time to stop. My name is Mike Shoesmith. You've been listening to PPSIMMONS Radio. See you next time.